Thank you so much for being here tonight, and congratulations on really such a powerful, beautiful film.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying. So to start off, I'd love to hear, maybe starting with you, Michael, on kind of the genesis of the project. How long, I know you've worked with Deborah before in the past, both of you have, but what was the origin of this for Deborah? How long ago did she start working on it? And when did you get involved as well?
Linda Reisman and Anne Harrison had optioned the novel, Peter Brock's novel, and they brought Deborah and Anne Rossellini in to develop the screenplay. And I would say that was about 5 years ago. So it's been quite a long process. I would, having worked on it with Winter's Bone and most things previous to that, I would start to get ideas about what they were doing next. And so I started to read early drafts of the script. And yeah, that would have been for me about 4 years ago.
And can you, I'm not familiar with the novel. How different is this from the source material? And how much did the script change over the time she was developing it?
Yeah, there were quite a few changes. I know that Deborah was attracted to many aspects of the novel. It's based on a true story, and everything that's known is from newspaper reports. This father and daughter, up to the point where they go to the horse ranch. That's kind of known information. They were known around Portland. And after that, Peter did his own idea of what had happened to them. And then I'd say over the years there were 3 or 4 different endings we tried out in the script, and this is the one that was settled on.
I mean, that final scene is incredible. I want to come back to that and talk more about how you actually filmed that. But Dale, maybe, when did you get involved in this? You had the character named Dale, so I had a feeling Deborah had you in mind for this.
A little bit. When she constantly, would you like to play Dale? And I'm like, well, who is Dale? Yeah, in the novel, which I had read, My Abandonment, it's very nonspecific. And so I came on board. I think maybe you guys were originally going to maybe shoot in the fall of 2016.
Yeah, fall of 2016 originally.
And then and so I've been contacted then that they would like me to be a part of it, which I was so grateful, because I love them all so much. And then the project got pushed to the spring. So it was like almost a year ago when it was filmed.
And Dale was busy, and there was a lot of panic leading up to filming if Dale was going to be available for the show that she was on. That was certainly our perspective. We were kind of praying.
Well, it's interesting because, work just comes and goes. It's up and down. You never know when it's going to be here. So when the film finally did come around, I was doing a recurring role on a TV series, which is, pays the rent. So I can do independent films, which I love. But I was terrified, I said, I can't not do this film. They can, write me out of the episode, but actually the producers on the TV show, they said, oh, it's Deborah Granick. And they knew her work, and they said, we're letting you go because of this. And they wrote me out the episode, which worked fine, but I was so grateful that I was able to do it.
That's fantastic. Well, to me, I mean, the film is so beautiful and powerful, but what is so striking to me is it's so simple, right? It's human faces, it's human beings and nature, and the color green is overwhelming. Can you talk as a cinematographer, just talk about filming in the woods and capturing those greens, and I imagine there were incredible challenges to that for you.
Yeah, I mean, there were, there's a couple of sides to it. The first one is trying to kind of be honest, trying to be faithful to the characters' feelings for their environment. And so how can you represent that photographically? How can you represent the change once they're dragged out of that environment, and then kind of what happens at the end? And photographically, we use some lenses that have different feels and textures to really play up the beauty and the warmth of the forest when they're first there, because it's a very happy environment for them. And so that's a deliberate approach. And then we got further away on longer lenses for the city, so that there's physically more separation between the audience and the characters at that point, to try try and show that kind of they're being ripped out of their comfort zone. And then we kind of did a combination of those things towards the end. And we shot tests up there and worked on a look, and we shot digitally on an Alexa, and we crafted a look with an old-time collaborator, Tim Stiffen, who coloured Winter's Bone. And that was our approach. And for me, it's like a film stock. I plugged in the look, and we just shot it as though we were shooting a film.
And when you were filming in the woods, what was your team? Like, how many people were you? And I mean, it feels like it's a very intimate film, and I assume the set and the crew were as well. So.
Absolutely, as Dale would attest, there were maybe a dozen to 20 people around. It's a small, intimate indie film, so we don't have a lot of materials, a lot of equipment to work with, no large generators, so therefore no large lights. And that's the way Deborah likes to work. She likes to have a very intimate, flowing set without a lot of the mechanics of big filmmaking. And so yeah, we had this very kind of intimate approach to it. The crews in Portland are fantastic. They're used to that terrain. I had to get used to it, but I was operating the camera myself. It was handheld, and you're on 45 degrees for most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But they're very used to it. They're used to working in the rain and difficult conditions, and they made it easy. Actually, I learned a lot from how to film in those conditions, working with a really fantastic crew.
So when you were in the woods, did you have any lighting, or was it all natural?
There's a big movement these days towards Terrence Malick's been doing a lot of work with Chivo, shooting available light on film and digital, and nature gives you everything that you need for drama. You just have to know how to use it. When there is no available light, then you have to create some light. But when there's generally light there, you can craft it fairly easily to do what you need it to do dramatically. So it was, the majority of it was an available light shoot, and obviously some of the night work inside the tent. Once we got into the city, it required some lighting. But mostly it was just trying to be, years ago I think Vera Farmiga talked about the dance that happens between the camera and the actress, and it's really that's what you do. You're trying to have that relationship so that you're sort of dancing through the day, and you're trying to keep most of the other elements away so that the actors can just concentrate on each other.
There are so many moments in the film where there are these kind of, it feels like long takes where you're just on their faces, and the real play of emotion across the faces is incredible. And was there any improvisation to it, or was it pretty scripted where you were just kind of getting that on different takes, or?
We're fairly faithful to the script and the ideas of the script and the ideas of the scene, but there's definitely a lot of play happens in the moment. You see something, you just quietly whisper to Ben or Dale or whoever, just hold it there. There's kind of some quiet communication as well. But yeah, the faces of the characters of the actors in this film is just so fantastic, from Dale through Thomason and Ben. You could literally just, sometimes you're waiting for someone to say cut and no one's going to say cut, because what you're looking at, it drags you in.
Dale, I thought that whole final sequence in the hippie commune in the woods or whatever it was, first of all, I want to move there.
I do too.
People were amazing.
But you have to be nude if you do. It's as nude as can.
It really is.
Is it really? I mean, it's kind of incredible because there's like very few scenes there, but it's so emotionally resonant, and your character is just like immediately, it's like the emotional heart of that encampment, and the connection with Thomasine is immediate. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it was a beautiful relationship, and sort of hopeful that she was going to be okay, and possibly might see her father again in the woods one day. But that was a really special place to film, and what I love about working with Deborah so much, I mentioned this earlier about the intimacy of the scenes and the playing. Deborah's so curious. She's very cerebral, but she's always curious about, well, what would happen here? Or what would she say there? Or what would, and so we would often play within that, and a lot of that dialogue is never used, but it would sort of give different options. And she would sometimes whisper in Thomason's ear to surprise me with a certain line, and that that was always fun. But what a wonderful Thomason's, I mean, they're both extraordinary, but Michael and I were talking about Thomason before. You just look into her eyes and there's something so beautiful and old soul about her. She's very special.
I didn't know until after I'd seen the film that she's from New Zealand and has lots of other credits prior to this. I mean, to me, she was a total discovery. Did you have a chance to rehearse with her beforehand? And in general, was there a rehearsal period for the film?
I think Ben and Tom were around for a week or 10 days before we started filming. They were doing a lot of outdoor training with Dr. Nicole Bellion, who's an outdoor expert, and a lot of their relationship building was actually while they were learning what would we be doing, how would we be living here. So that was a really great period. And I believe there was a certain amount of rehearsal within a couple of days.
The nice thing, we would film, what would be like an hour and a half out of Portland? But actually Thomason and her guardian that was there with her, we were all in the same sort of hotel complex together, so I got to spend a lot of downtime with her. And she does love mushrooms. But she's just such a special girl. I think she was 16?
16 when we met shot, yeah.
But she's from I think it's Wellington, New Zealand. When I went to Sundance with her, she would always do a map of New Zealand, which I can't do very well. And she'd say, I'm from down here.
I think just something you touched on about the camp at the end and Dale and feeling she does run this camp. And most of the people you see around the camp are the people who live there, the ones who are happy to be in the film and on film. And Dale absolutely, it feels like, I think in anything I work with Dale, she will absolutely immerse herself in that community instantly and take on that. And I think you absolutely did. You felt instantly like the leader of that community.
Thank you. I would like to live there. That's probably pretty close to how I am. I could just go and live in the woods. And I did want to, just from some other Q&As, I can remember Deborah saying that you guys filmed in sequence.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, during the training and the original camp and the original woods, so we filmed in that order. Then they were dragged out of the woods and we filmed in the city, and we finished with a period of filming at the camp at the end. So it really helped everyone from crew onwards understand where the characters were going, and the actors themselves were able to bond in a kind of natural arc.
Could you talk a bit about the scene with the bees? I'm just curious about that technically, like how you pulled that off when they're on her hand.
Yeah, the beekeeper, actually, an actor who I was not familiar with from TV, is a beekeeper herself. She was an actor, but she was also an experienced beekeeper. So she was very comfortable around the bees. The crew, the entire camera crew and the sound crew and Deborah, whoever had to be close to that scene, was wearing the same garb that Tom was wearing, which made it was a hot day and it made it a little difficult to work. But yeah, there was definitely production considerations of safety with Tom and with the crew and with the other actors, that it would be a safe scene. And it's a magical scene. As soon as you could literally, I was very close with the camera, you could feel the heat radiating off the behind. You can feel the buzz of the energy, and Tom really got taken by it. I think she said that she would love to keep bees when she's and you know, in some more advanced years, she would love that experience of being with bees.
You know, I had a question. This might seem a little out of left field, but I don't know when you were in production on the film exactly, but I'm wondering what was happening in the country at the time you were filming, and politically. The film's not overtly or obviously political, but I kept thinking about it, and
It was spring 2017
is when
we were shooting up in Portland. Obviously, a lot of things, you know, it's always been a concern of Deborah's how veterans are treated and how they reintegrate into society after the service. And we definitely had a lot of experience with that when we were at the VA hospital, and just in general with advisors and Ben's own experiences of that. So there were definitely political tones to it, how the city and the authorities would come in and destroy these camps and these are people's homes as well. It's that whole question of inside or outside, or why is someone inside, why are they okay and outsiders are wrong? So there were definitely moral questions going on all the time.
This was my, I guess, fourth time seeing it at different festivals, and today, probably because of what the political climate, was the first time I related it to the separation of the children and their parents.
Yeah.
That was just really rang true, particularly when they're trying to adjust, that we have to follow the rules if we want to stay together, and yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. One thing that struck me in that, I mean, throughout the whole film, it's like such a humanist film. Like everyone they encounter on some level is decent. Even the people destroying the camp, or the people separating them in the facility, like they're not, you could imagine a different version of this film that would be very melodramatic and heavy-handed, and everyone is allowed to, be there as a human on screen. Those people are really trying to help them, get resettled. But it's kind of striking.
I think as the script gets developed, you have this idea that, okay, the authorities in town, the social workers, they are the antagonists here. But then you actually go to Portland and you spend a couple of weeks in prep and research, and you start to meet social workers, and you start to really get a different perspective on that. And that's one of Deborah's great talents, is that in anything we've done, the fact that they take years to make means you do years of research, and things aren't just simply portrayed, they're really deeply gone into. In Witch's Bone, we would have talked to FBI agents who did raids on meth labs, local sheriffs, meth cookers. Every aspect was looked at and discussed, and that helps adjust the script. And in this case, it'd be exactly the same. The social workers actually, we tried to have a social worker in the scene, and for various reasons couldn't. And so the actor who came in spent some time with them and took on a lot of the mores of that person, but they were really decent people.
Michael, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm not exactly sure what the question is, but you have such a wide range of styles and films and filmmakers that you've worked with. Recently Bosch, the Amazon series, and Downton Abbey, with Rodrigo Garcia and Albert Dobbs. They're like such they're such different visual looks, radically different. And I guess, where do you see this style fitting in your overall work?
Desperately trying to stay employed. No, I really feel, and I've always felt, I grew up loving Mike Leigh's films, and Dick Pope. His camera work was completely under the radar. He was basically helping tell the story, but there was no flash, there was no pizzazz, there was just he's helping tell the story. And I think I've always just tried to help tell each director's story. So I work with lots of different kinds of directors. So I just feel like, what I will bring to it is my belief in working naturally in the drama that is in nature itself, and just trying to bring that into it, and trying to work simply and quickly, and trying to not impose the camera too much on what's happening.
Yeah. Well, lastly, I do want to ask about the final scene where the two of them say goodbye in the woods. That is, I think there's, 2 lines of dialogue, and it feels like, the scene takes the amount of time it takes. And how did you approach that?
I was standing next to Dale when we were going to come in, and we were just watching it, and Dale was just absolutely cutting up, and it is a really, really emotional moment. And we had a steady cam. We had mostly a single camera shoot, but we had a steady cam for certain things, and we kind of set that up. We would walk. I shouldn't be telling this, but because I was horrified at the time. We set up this tracking shot that brings them through, and that it lands, and when we basically went for it, we weren't quite sure what was going to happen. There was very little way of communicating with the camera operator at the time. We weren't really set up for wireless and communication stuff, so we were kind of just trying to feel it out. And on the first take, we come through, And of course the guys just go for it. And the camera for quite a long time is sitting behind Ben looking at Tom. And there's no way to go, and you can't break into that scene, there's no way to go up and, you know, because we were also quite far back from the scene, observing it.
So you're shooting here with one camera?
With one camera.
Okay.
And then at the end of that take, I just put my head in my hands, and Ben kind of looked around, and he's like, what the? We didn't really know what was going to come out, and I should have guessed that would happen. But right away, I got the camera on my shoulder, the steady cam comes through, I try to come out from behind a log, and then we then settle on the 2-shot, and then we go from there on in. There was also a camera on everyone's face all the way through it. But it's these, even after 20 years of doing it, you're like, dumbass.
Yeah.
But Ben was very good about it, and he brought it every take after that.
And did you do a lot of takes of that, or was
I
it?
think we probably did 4 or 5 takes, and maybe a couple of sizes, but it wasn't overly, you couldn't, it's all there. You couldn't work that scene too often, or you would start to kind of go backwards in it. And I think that's probably the second take that's used, that's in the first take after we actually start filming in that other direction.
And I know you had said before that because of filming in sequence, it was actually a real goodbye in a way for them as well as for the crew. It was sort of a sense of closure for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I actually physically think the very last shot we did on the film was Ben walking away in the drone shot. It literally was that specific.
Wow. So Dale, was Winter's Bone your first film with Deborah?
Yes.
The answer to this is probably obvious just from seeing it on screen, but what is it that draws you to working with her? You want to leave a series and go be?
I just love her storytelling. And Winter's Bone was such a glorious experience, and we shot it so quick. I think that was 21 days, and this maybe was 30.
Yeah, I think 24 days, I think, at the end, and Winter's Bone, and this was something like 32 days.
But I think maybe since Deborah and Michael have known each other for so long from film school, and then Ann Rossellini, her writing and producing partner, it's like a family, and everything's very symbiotic, and it's a very calm, nurturing, quiet, loving, caring set. She's just something special about it. So I was thrilled to get to work with her and hope to again. I just think the whole team, you all are just so special filmmakers.
I think we're all hoping it's not an 8-year break between
Absolutely.
Kubricki and it's we'd definitely like to do something a bit sooner.
Well, congratulations on the film, both of you, and thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks so much. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.